Oh, hello. This is Sharon, and this is Teen Services 101, Week 3. We're going to be talking about programming, which is, in my opinion, the most exciting part. But the part that I think causes the most angst among librarians. So we're going to talk about what to do about that. And we're going to give you some ideas for how to get started. So let's get started. So let's start talking about marketing. So marketing with teens is really, really important. So how do you guys market to your teens or preteens? What do you guys use?
Mouth.
Facebook.
Facebook?
Yep.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth, that's excellent, yep.
Yeah, Facebook and talking to them.
Excellent. Thad agrees, other teens and word of mouth. Mary, flyers and personal contact. Yep. Does anyone have an email newsletter that they send out to the community? I know Fairfax sends out one.
We do Front Porch as well.
Oh, Front Porch Forum. Forgot about that. That's perfect. Excellent, excellent idea. Has anyone ever advertised or done any marketing? Sandwich board on the road. Brilliant. Has anyone ever done any marketing or like advertising any local businesses or the farmers market or anything like that?
Our friends library has a booth during the summer at the farmers market, and I have like a sandwich board thing that I set up there.
That's awesome. That sometimes
We
that
do
can
our
be
farmers
really
market
great
too.
to grab people. Newspaper, yes, definitely. Your local newspapers. So every community is a little bit different. It depends a lot on how the people in your town get their information, and then if you're serving multiple towns, how those people get their information. One of the things to think about is, are you marketing to the kids or are you marketing to their rides? So with tweens especially, they may not have a way to get to your library without the grown-ups in their lives. And if there isn't a bus stop near your library, then they might have to get rides from the grown-ups. So that means you're actually advertising or marketing to the grown-ups rather than to the kids, which makes your message just a little bit different, right? Whereas if you're advertising just to the kids and they can get there on their own, or if the bus stops right in front of your library, the way you advertise is a little bit different. How has anyone ever done targeted advertising specifically to grown-ups in the town, or how would you do it differently? Nobody?
I think all of my marketing is to the adults.
Yeah. So that's something to be aware of is your marketing to the adults or to the kids. So when you're doing marketing to the kids, you might be emphasizing things like food, right? Or you might have a picture of a zombie book or a zombie movie or something equally gross that will get kids in, right? Sarah reminded us school newsletters. Those are awesome places to advertise. And school newsletters sometimes have a dual purpose. Sometimes kids read them, sometimes they don't. But if you're advertising to parents or to grown-ups, you might want to think about things like making sure that it sounds like something worthwhile, right? Because if they're going to take time out of their day to come and drop off kids at the library, first of all, are they going to drop them off for a half an hour? Maybe not. So you might want to have a little longer program. And they're not going to care so much about pizza, but what they might care is that it's like a structured or like something that sounds kind of educational, sounds like they're keeping the kids out of trouble programs. Who just posted this? Sasha, she sends monthly calendar to the school secretary and she emails them to all. Oh, wow, you have a good relationship with the schools. I've always coveted people who had that kind of relationship. So she's friends with the school secretary, and she emails everyone in the school. Fabulous. Renee, her daughter's 15, and she comes to the library after school, and just being there brings in people. And that's a really astute observation. There's this weird chicken and the egg thing that happens with kids. So are kids coming in because there's kids already there? So is it because, how do you get the kids there so that they can attract more kids? And the same thing happens with your displays and your collections. Like, are people checking out books because there are cool books there, or are there cool books there because they're checking out books? It's really hard to say. It's kind of circular. And so part of what you have to do is you have to start upping your cool factor. So you want to have the latest books. You want to have some cool kids in the library. And you want to start kind of a word of mouth, that kind of X factor. This is the good place to be after school. And Helena is saying, oh yeah, so you have a teen that gathers up sign-up sheets. Having a teen helper or somebody who puts their stamp of approval on a program can really, really help. So if you can grab a kid, I was talking to somebody recently who was looking for somebody who was like just nerdy enough, but just cool enough to not scare anybody away, but to have that kind of cool factor so that other kids would want to come and join. And I thought, there is that kind of unicorn factor of like trying to find that perfect kid who's going to attract lots of different kinds of kids and convince them that it's worth their time to come, but also isn't going to intimidate anybody else. School staff is a really good place to talk, and especially to talk up your programs, especially since you guys are all in pretty small towns, talking up your programs and your library in general to everyone who walks in the door and everyone that you meet. You never know where those people work or who they know. And so they could be the secretary in the elementary school. They could be, in an after school program. And so having that word of mouth is going to help you. And with teens, especially that marketing thing, it's important. You ever hear about marketing with brands, like brand recognition is important. So like the Nike swoop or the Coca-Cola sign, they don't really care if they sell you anything. What they want is they want brand recognition. They want you to feel good or to smile when you see that logo. And so the same thing with the library. You want them to just kind of think, oh, that's a cool place. The library is cool. And as you build that reputation, then it will get easier to get kids in. And I'm not saying it's easy, because sometimes you lose like a cohort of teens. This happened to me my very first teen job. I lost this cohort of teens, and then I had to start all over again with the really young ones. And that will definitely happen. So think about your library. Yeah, branding matters for teens. Think about how image conscious they are. They want things that are cool. They don't want to look dorky. They want to go where their friends are. There's a lot of peer pressure. And so you have to convince them that this is worth their time. And
Lauren?
It is. Yep.
Karen, this is Reen. Can I mention that we had my daughter's birthday party at a rock climbing center, and we had about 15 teens there. As they were having their cake, I did bring up the library, and I did ask them if they would mind if I made up a questionnaire for them to fill out. On the way home, we had 6 in the car, and I figured, well, they are captured,
Sure.
So I will ask them. We talked about their favorite books and their favorite movies, why they like them. It was awesome. It was just awesome.
That's phenomenal. And that's what I mean about the whole, like, building this kind of cool factor. You are part of it. And so by you just being awesome and talking to them and being like, yeah, I like vampires too, and I like dystopia, and I've read that book, and being able to talk to them on that level and not judging them and being like, yeah, I love that, you went rock climbing and this is cool. You are part of that. And that's why I tell people that going to the schools is really important. Even if you don't have a purpose or a big presentation to do, just showing your face out there and telling kids, hey, I work at the library. That will make them feel more comfortable. So when they walk in next time and they see you, they're going to be like, ooh, I know you. And they'll already know that you're nice, and they'll already know that, you're not going to judge them and that you like cool books or whatever. And so being approachable and is part of that marketing. It's part of that, hey, someone cool works at the library. I want to go there, yeah, so that's awesome. That's really awesome. All right, so let's talk a little bit about scheduling. So we've talked about how we are competing with sports, we are competing with parties, we are competing with homework, we are competing for rides. So let's talk a little bit about what works. Every community is a little bit different, and you guys, most of you guys are not working full time, so you have to be mindful of your time. One of the things that people have done is do a regular kind of event or a regular event time. So it would be like the first Friday of every month is teen time, or, and maybe you schedule something different, but they know that if they show up the first Friday of every month, there'll be something cool going on. Or maybe you do it every week. I had something really low key in one of my libraries where every Wednesday afternoon, I would just bring some cookies and we would just sit around and gab about whatever was going on in the high school. And I might ask them about some books and some movies and stuff, but it was really low key, and they just knew that I would set aside some time for them every Wednesday afternoon. And that was born kind of organically. They just happened to be there. And so I thought, well, I might as well feed them and talk to them and, give them this like structured time, and they loved it. Of course, when they all left, it was sad and I had to start over again. Weekend events are something else to think about. If you work weekends, you don't want to kill yourself, but sometimes weekend events can help, or can be something you can do. One thing that we talked about on Friday in one of my other programs is after hours events. That's not possible in every library, but it is something that it creates this unique space for teens, where they don't have to be quiet, they don't have to be presentable, they can do whatever, kind of be whoever they are, within reason, and have that space that's really just for them. And that can be really awesome, especially if you have a small library where they don't really have their own space. If you are doing something after hours, then it's kind of all their space. And it can be something, you can turn the library into a teen space. But like I said, it's not possible everywhere, and sometimes it can be kind of a challenge. So think about what time your teens can get to your library. Is there a bus stop? Does it take them time to go home and get a ride? Do they walk? People who are really close to schools, is there like a lag time between when school ends and when they come over? Sometimes I found that if there's too much of a lag time, like if they get out of school at 3:30 or 3 o'clock or whatever, and you have a program at 4, sometimes I would lose them in between. So they'd be like, oh, we're going to go get snacks, we'll be back. And then they get distracted and never come back. So I found that it was important to grab them right as they were coming in the library and be like, okay, there's a program starting right now, come on up. And that's what worked for me. So think about these things. The other things to think about are when you're working with kids who need rides, can you do something in tandem with an adult program or a children's program so that the rides, you're actually bringing the whole family? And that sometimes can be fun on the weekend if you have the staff for it, or if you do something passive where maybe there's a teen program going on, but there's something fun for the adults and the little kids to do as well. And that is something you can definitely think about in the summertime when the families are doing things together, because that way the rides aren't, it can be like a big family event rather than, one person needs a ride here and one person needs a ride there. The other things to think about are holidays, those teacher training days. Do you guys get schedules from the schools in advance and know when your schools are out of session? And then vacation weeks especially. Angel says, no, you don't get calendars. Yeah, not all schools are very forthcoming. Sometimes it's worth asking, or if they don't know like really far in advance, you can grab one of the kids and see if they have a calendar. Like Sarah's saying, most schools have them online. Most, but not all. Some of those little schools don't have very good websites. If you do have a school with a great website, go there and find the calendar and see when they're going to be off, because that's going to definitely affect the flow in your library. Pull them from the website and see. And if you can't find them, ask some of the parents who come in, or ask some of the kids, hey, do you know where the school calendar is? And they can hook you up. Sometimes other staff members or volunteers or trustees can hook you up with those calendars. I used to have to go through one of the parents to get them because they did not post them online, or they didn't post them very far in advance. But it's important to know this stuff. So what have you guys
Sharon?
done? What kind of scheduling have you done? Yep.
I just have a question. What are your feelings about registering versus not registering for events? Because that's kind of a double-edged sword, you know?
It really
Some
is.
people feel like if they register, they're committed, but then they don't show, or they say, I might show, but what do you, does it depend on the program, you think?
In my experience, registration never works for teens.
Okay.
That's my experience, because what happens is that they sign themselves up, and the parents or the rides, their chauffeurs, don't have any knowledge of that. And so then it's not really, they're not really scheduled for it, you know? I think it works better with the smaller kids, because their rides, their chauffeurs are going to be signing them up. And so they're like, you know, they're going to put them in their schedule right away. But teens, I think it's tricky, but it depends on your community. Some communities really like signups and some don't. I have never had good luck with it. However, it's a double-edged sword, like you were saying. Sometimes you risk not having anyone come to a program, or you risk having 50 people come to a program and you are unprepared. Has anyone else had any experience with this? Does anyone use signups with the older kids?
I do and I don't, depending on if I have to limit it or if it's a big event.
Okay. Yeah, Mary says.
I found that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found that teens, they don't really plan very far in advance, and they don't think ahead. So, they might say, hey, you know what, I'll perform for your coffee house, and then the night before, oh, I have to work, I forgot.
Yeah.
Well, you knew a month in advance, why didn't you ask for the day off?
Right.
But, that's logic, and they don't have that.
I know. It's hard. I always used to say that teens go outside and sniff the air, and that's how they decide what they're going to do that day. And they're like, ooh, I'm going to go that way. And so you just don't know.
Oh, was that today?
Oh, right. Yeah. I didn't know. You didn't tell me. Yeah, I did. And especially these days, teens don't use email, and they're not on Facebook anymore. So, yeah.
It is hard, especially if you're trying to buy materials.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always on that edge. How much do I buy? Do I not buy?
Definitely. Sarah says she depends on her program. A henna program, yes. Teen advisory, no. That's a really good point. Sometimes you have programs that are really popular or really material sensitive, like henna, or if you brought in a performer or an artist or something like that, you might want to do sign-ups ahead of time. First of all, it's you want a good crowd for them, but also you don't want too many people. Has anyone had luck with Twitter sending out tweets? I haven't. I'm not a Twitter girl. Does anyone else have luck with Twitter?
My Facebook is attached to Twitter, but I don't. That doesn't seem to work either.
Sarah says Twitter seems over. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these social media things, the adults are hanging on to them, but the kids aren't. I don't even know where the kids are these days. They want to be texted. Instagram, definitely. They want to be texted, which just isn't, it's not feasible for a lot of us. Flyers at school, definitely on the event board. And I think um, that's one of the reasons that I have leaned towards regular kind of thing where like every Friday there's a thing going on, or so that the kids just know, oh, it's Friday, that means I go to the library, or the second Monday of the month or whatever. Then they just kind of know when to come, and then you can set something up. Do the specifics later. So Snapchat definitely, but Snapchat is pain. Um, so Snapchat is this ridiculous kind of texting program where you send photos, right, to each other, but the problem is they disappear after a few seconds. Um, yeah, Paige and I are on the same page with that. It's terrible. So kids think that there is no record of it, which is such a lie. And it disappears after a few seconds. So there's no record of it, but there is. There's a record of everything you do online, as you know. Yeah, and it's labor intensive. I would stay away from Snapchat. I'm not sure it's worth it. So yeah, that's why I do the regular scheduling stuff. That has worked for me, but it doesn't always work. I tried something. There was I'll find it for you. But there was a program where it was free and it would send tweets to your phone as text messages. I'll find the program for you and send you the link. And that it sounded good, but the kids didn't pay attention to them either. But it might work in your community. It was just a free thing where you set it up to your Twitter account, and you could send out reminders like, hey, we're making candy sushi today, and hope that they would pay attention and come in. So it's going to take time is the answer. There's no magic answer for getting kids in. But you do need to build up that kind of cool factor that like the library is a safe place to go. It's, people there are nice, and that, you can come and do fun things. And one of the things you might have to do in your library is start with the young ones. So win over the parents who are driving the younger ones, the 9 and 10-year-olds. And then as they get older, just be part of their lives. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it's just too hard to get the teens in, straight from the high school. That it can be really hard. You're competing with a lot of stuff. And especially if you're not doing homework support, then it might be hard to convince them. But think about these things. Think about what works for you. So let's talk about the fun stuff. Program ideas. So this is a picture of one of my favorite programs ever, Candy Sushi. Oh God. So we have to water and feed the little ones and they will be comfortable here. I love that. I'm going to steal that. Water and feed the young. Yes, you have to train them young. Train them young and then they keep coming back. It's so true. You got to train them. So who here has made candy sushi? Anyone here made candy sushi? Then they will vote. Yes, they will. All right, candy sushi is like the most fun thing you've ever made in your life, and I highly suggest that you do it with your teens. It's really fun. You need Rice Krispie treats, and you can either make them if you have a microwave in your library, or you can buy them. You might need to warm them up a little bit with your hands. You need it to squish, and then you need fruit roll-ups. And this one actually uses, I think these are Pop Rocks or colored sugar, and this is fruit roll-ups and Swedish fish, of course, and then you need gummy worms and things. And all you do is you roll out the fruit roll-up like it's seaweed, and then put in the rice, which is the Rice Krispie treats, and the worms and fish and things, and roll it up. And then you're going to need a sharp knife because plastic knives do not work on fruit roll-ups, I've learned through the years, and they don't work on gummy worms either. and then you can slice them and they look like sushi. Or you can make these fancy ones here where there's rice and then a fish, and then you can wrap it up with either licorice or fruit roll-ups, things like that. Good stuff. Oh, well, Mary made real sushi. Well, aren't you fancy? I've never been brave enough to feed children things like that, but that's wonderful. Nice. How many kids did you get for that program, or was it a grown-up program?
It's a kids program. It was a teen program, and it was a Japanese woman and a 20-something friend of mine who came in and taught our TAB group, our Teen Advisory Board.
Nice.
And we had people at the beginning saying, I'll never eat that stuff, walking out with extras at the end. It wasn't a great amount of people. There never a great amount of people for teens, but probably 8.
That's great. So we're going to talk about this in a minute, but I'm going to tell you this anyway. So there's this awesome person who did this thing where we talked about numbers in kids programs, and teens are really hard to get into the library. Little kids are not. So the rule of thumb is this. Every teen that you get to a program is equal to the same amount of work as 7 preschool kids. And that means marketing and programming and going out there and trying to get people to show up. So if you take your teen number and multiply it by 7, that's the equivalent number of like preschool kids. And it'll make you feel better because it's a ton of work to get teens in the library. So some other ideas. Food is always brilliant. Food is great. Playing with your food, everyone loves it. I've done things as simple as making mud pies, where I gave kids bags of cookies, like Ziploc bags full of cookies, and had them crush them with books, which who doesn't love to crush cookies, right? And then we made pudding, instant pudding with a hand blender, which the kids loved that when I used to bring in cooking utensils. Anything from an apple core, which they just thought was the coolest thing, to I had a peeler that looked like a chicken, which they loved, and my hand blender, my stick blender, they just loved those things. They're like, I want to play. And so we made instant pudding, and then we just layered things in clear plastic cups with pudding and crushed crackers and gummy worms and made mud pies, and they were actually really, really tasty. So I used to do a regular monthly Play With Your Food program, and the kids loved it. Movies are always fun. You guys get your movie license through us. Make sure to make sure that you're following the rules. And they can be a little complicated, and some movies are not covered, I know, but, manga and anime.
Hey, Sharon?
Yeah?
Is your movie license more expansive than, I think there's a company called Movie Licensing, or is that who yours?
I don't know. You'd have to check.
And is yours site specific so that if you have it, you can't do it outside, or you can only do it in? You know what I mean?
I have to look at it. I think outside is still covered. The part that's not covered is you're not allowed to announce the movie title off-site. So you can't put an ad in the newspaper that says, we're showing Back to the Future.
Can you put it on your Facebook page?
I don't think so, but you can allude to it. Yeah, you have to look at the rules, and sometimes you can bend the rules a little bit, but be careful. But take a look at that. There's a link on the Department of Library's website. So manga and anime is really, really popular. You want to be careful with anime because a lot of those things are not covered under the movie license, but some of them are. And you can, if you have a really big anime population, you can get special licensing to show certain things. But there are also movies. Movies are fun, and it depends on how many kids you have, and they'll tell you exactly what they want to watch. Tinkering, obviously, STEM is huge. Maker spaces are huge. Anything that lights up is cool. Crafts. Here is my secret to teen programming, and it's not actually a secret because I I tell everyone this, is duplicate your preschool programs. Take exactly what you did with your preschoolers and then do it with the teens and maybe add a little glitter. And they will love it. You don't advertise it that way. Like maybe you just call it, snack time, but you bring on the crayons and the brown butcher paper, or you make masks or whatever. And that's a good way to not have to waste a lot of materials. So you've already got the materials. Or maybe you have them try something. Maybe you tell them, hey, I'm thinking about doing this with the little kids. How about you guys try it out and we'll see how it goes. And maybe some of them will even donate their creations as samples for the little kids. And that's a way to give them, an excuse to do fun things. And, they love it. They love doing that stuff. Oh, Thad said you can now advertise the movie title on your website, in newsletter, and emails. Oh, good. Yeah, I have a vague memory of hearing about that. That's phenomenal. So you can advertise the title. And I'm guessing since you can do it on the website and emails, you can do it on Facebook too. And Mary says we just did that in the YA room as passive programming, and they went every day and drew stuff for Halloween. Yeah, they love this stuff. Give them some crayons and some paper. They love this stuff. And you can do really fun things where you just have some paper and crayons in your back pocket, and like if there's a lull in your program or if it's quiet, you can give them a piece of paper and say, okay, you're going to start drawing. You have 30 seconds to draw something, and then you pass it to the person to the left. And then you keep passing it around until you get your original drawing, and it's got like 9 different images on it and some crazy story, and you try to guess what the story is. That can be a really easy way. And if you have some popcorn or some chips or something, it's a good way to spend, an hour or two. Volunteer programs are an enormous way, or a really good way to get teens in, especially if there's a community service requirement in your community. Sometimes the Scouts have community service requirements. Sometimes church groups have community service requirements as well. So keep an eye on that. And there is a self-paced learning module on the Youth Services Toolkit for volunteer programs. I gave a program last year on it, and I can talk about teen volunteers all day long, so just ask if you have questions. So let's talk about evaluation really quickly. And you'll notice I put a message here in bright red type. There is no such thing as failure when you're doing teen programming, and I want you to remember that, and I want you to take that to heart and remember that Sharon told you there's no such thing as failure. Teens are hard. There are a lot of things that will make you feel like a failure. Things like they didn't show up, or they told you they thought your idea was silly, or they told you was it Sarah, were you saying that they told you tie-dye was out and you're going to if you want to be cool, you use bleach. Well, they didn't tell you that until, the program started. And the thing is that it's all a learning experience. And if you create it so that it is yeah, exactly. You tried. I had this awesome library director when I was first starting out who used to say it went on the calendar. It looked good to the community. It looked good to the trustees that you tried, that you had something on the calendar. It always looks good to have lots of programming on the calendar. And you tried. And you know what? You can learn from your experience. And if the worst thing is that you have some leftover cookies, it's totally fine. Yeah, and the teens didn't like it, then you ask for their feedback. What should I do next time? And in Sarah's case, they told you they want you to use bleach next time, which, may or may not happen because bleach is dangerous. But it depends on your kids, and maybe you do something different next time. So the things you want to ask yourself are how many kids came, what ages came, did they skew a little young, did they skew a little old, was it a mix? Was it hard to split them up? Like, did you have like a 9-year-old and an 18-year-old, and was it really awkward? Then you might want to think about putting stricter rules on your programs.
Hey, Sharon?
Yeah.
Can I throw something out about
yes.
bleach? There's a really easy way of doing bleach on fabric if you're worried about like breathing bleach. You can buy bleach sticks. and it's like a little tube, and the bleach is kind of in a gel form, but it's got a tip on it. And
I've seen that, the Clorox bleach pens.
yes, yeah. I used to do it all the time with my daughter. We used to make Christmas presents all the time.
Totally.
I would buy T-shirts and give her bleach sticks, and she would just draw on the front of the T-shirt, and whatever she drew would be bleached out, and they were just so cool looking.
That's an awesome idea. I see, and this is one of the things that I think one of the best things you can do for yourself for getting ideas for programs is to connect to each other. So you should be connecting to other libraries on Facebook. You should be looking on Pinterest. You should be looking at other people's newsletters, getting ideas from each other. Like one of the big feedback I got from the summer reading workshop is people loved sharing and brainstorming ideas. And so social media makes it really easy to do that. And so, kids want to do something new, post on Facebook on one of our pages and say, hey, my kids really want to do this. And chances are somebody has an idea for you. And there are also, I will send you links. There is a national teen services Facebook group. In addition to, it's related to the Storytime Underground group, which is fabulous. Both of those groups, plus the Teen Services Roundtable for Vermont, will all give you great ideas, and you can ask questions, and they're all your peers, and so you have lots of ideas like that. And so one of the things that I love, and I think you should be thinking about, is listen to their feedback, and so if they tell you that they want to do something, then try it out, see what happens. Within reason, some things are too expensive and some things are too involved, but if they want to have a minion party, then hey, see if you can make it happen. And then when you talk to them next time, if they didn't show up, you can be like, hey, you didn't show up to the minion party that I put together for you, just for you, and see what they say. It's important to ask the kids. They're not going to fill out surveys no matter what you do, but ask them where they heard about it. So, hey, who did you come with? How'd you hear about this? And then use that information for next time. So if they heard about it from their teacher, then you know that that's a really good place to advertise. If they heard about it because their mom just dragged them there, then you've got to get the rides on board. If you heard about it from a friend, ooh, that's kind of exciting. What friend did you hear about it from? And see if you can track back to what methods are working best for you. And then the other thing is think about, what did you learn? So did you learn that that this program works really well? Did you learn that sometimes if you are doing something on the fly, did that work well? Did you have something really planned out? One of the things that I have learned over the years, and it kind of suits my personality and it doesn't suit everybody's, is that I don't plan a lot for teen events, because for me personally, if I plan a lot and no one shows up, I get really sad. So instead, what I tend to do is I tend to kind of have an idea of what I want to do, and then have some supplies. And then if the kids show up, great. And if they don't, or if they want to do something else instead, I'm not sad about it. So I might come in and say, hey, I've got stuff to make pudding, and I've got cookies. And I was thinking we could make mud pies. What do you guys think? And if they say, oh, that's stupid, then it's like, whatever, So I wasted, a half gallon of milk. It's no big deal. The other thing is think about your supplies and try to limit with teens, especially when you're starting out, to universal supplies. Try to use supplies that you can use for other things. Buy things like construction paper or butcher paper, stuff that you can use with the little kids. Buy things like fruit roll-ups that are individually wrapped so you can save them for later. When you feed them snacks, feed them the same snacks that you feed the preschool kids. They won't be ashamed, I swear. They like it. They'll drink apple juice and eat goldfish crackers. It's not that big a deal. Or make sure you have a place to store them or seal them so that you can save them for next time. And totally recycle your ideas. If no one comes for your program, but the kids are still really interested, or you still want to try it, recycle it and try it again the next time. There's no shame in that. And, use your materials over and over again. And this is where having stockpiles can sometimes be good. If you have a membership to like a big box store, this can be helpful. And that way, you have a lifetime supply of goldfish crackers and you're totally set to go. But just think about the fact that whatever you did is good. It looks good to have it on the calendar. Having feedback from the kids is important. It shows that they're meaningful, that they're important to the library. And learning about the different avenues of marketing is really, really important. And so even if no one shows up, even if they make a total mess, even if one kid shows up and they're not your favorite kid and you don't have any fun at all, it's not a failure at all. You talk to that kid about, hey, how could you get some friends in here next time? Or do you think, maybe your little brother could come and join us? Talk to them about it. And you can learn from even the most dire circumstances, I promise. And if you ever feel like you can't get to this place, call me and I will help you get to this place, I promise. So here's some tips for you, and I'm sure you guys have more, so speak up. Choose materials that can be reused. Absolutely. Stick to those basic stuff. Paper, scissors, glue sticks, glitter, or no glitter, depending on how brave you are. Steal ideas from your kids' programs. You have a little kid Lego program, try a big kid Lego program. You have a little kid craft time, try a big kid craft time. Stick with the simple stuff. Pick a jazzy name, though. So instead of calling it, craft time, call it teen crafternoon or sparkle hour. I don't care. Use it something. Give it a jazzy name, or have the teens name it. You never know. I had a book club once, and they wanted a book club with middle school kids, and they wanted it all to be adventure books. And so we called it, what was it called? It was like Troubled Children or something like that. They wanted it to be all about like kids were getting in trouble. And so we named it appropriately and the kids thought it was hilarious. Have them name it. Have backup plans. Always have backup plans in case you get the moody kids who are like, nah, that's dumb, I don't want to do it. Have some coloring sheets in your back pocket, maybe some puzzles, have a board game on your shelf somewhere. Apples to Apples is a great investment. Uno is always good to have. Maybe a cool YouTube video, even something stupid that you saw on Facebook, like, look at this dog, he's got there was one, it was a bulldog and a leaf blower, and I was thinking about it when I was looking at it because it was hilarious because, of course, the dog's lips are flapping everywhere. And I was like, my teens would have loved this. And it's just a way to, gather them up and be like, hey, look at this cool thing. Music can also be awesome, especially if the kids don't all know each other and aren't talking. Music can really bring them together, whether it's in like making fun of you for having silly music tastes, or they can start singing and dancing, which is always fun. Pandora is a fantastic thing. Grab your phone, or if you have an iPod or an iPad or something like that, Pandora is free. Load it up there, put on some popular music, and let them listen, and it will help kind of glue the kids together. And then my last piece of advice is to follow their lead. If they really want to, I had a group of kids one time, we were doing something with cupcakes, and they wanted to see what happened if we put candy corn in the microwave. And I was like, okay. And what ended up happening is you put candy corn in the microwave, and it doesn't melt, it gets soft. And so then they used it as clay, and they made these cool little figures out of them, like little animals and things. It was awesome. But that's what they wanted to do, and that was totally fine with me. So what other, Ivory soap in the microwave. Sasha, you are a genius. Easiest thing. If you have a microwave in your library, it's like the best tool ever. Kids love to microwave things. Ivory soap's the best. Marshmallows in the microwave. Indoor s'mores, like microwave s'mores, are like the easiest and best snack idea, because all you need to do is stick them in the microwave and you have an instant snack, and the kids love them. What other tips or advice do you guys have for people, or things that have always worked for you? Sasha, you want to talk about your ivory soap?
Sure. It's super easy. All you do is you get a basic bar of ivory soap, and you can do it whole, or I find it works better if you chop it in half, and you just put it on a microwavable plate in the microwave for about, I think it was about 3 minutes, and it turns into a fluffy white cloud. It is the coolest thing ever. And the kids are just absolutely amazed. And it smells really good, and it's just cool.
One time I did a program where we made our own soda, and it came from a Harry Potter party that we had done with the little kids, where and a bunch of my teens helped. And what they did was we had like a potions bar, and so we had powdered drink mixes like Kool-Aid and stuff, and we put them in mason jars and labeled them ridiculous things like powdered bat wings and dehydrated blood and things like that, and they could put spoonfuls into their cup and then would fill it with water or seltzer, and they would turn into this like brown, black, icky, gross stuff that the kids loved because it was full of sugar. And so when we were cleaning up for that with the teens, they were like, "Ooh, I want to try it. So one of my programs, we made soda, and all I did was bring a bunch of seltzer and powdered stuff that was left over from this Harry Potter party, and they had a ball. And they liked those little squeezy ones, the liquid concentrate, which is disgusting. And they were doing different combinations, and they were making pina colada, cherry soda, and all sorts of crazy stuff. Another thing that works really well is taste tests. And sometimes if you have really cool local businesses, you can even do it with things like pizza, and you can have them donate things or give you a deep discount. And you could have like a pizza tasting contest and vote for which one's the best pizza. You could do it simpler and do candy bar tasting. It's always good to hit the sales like after the big candy holidays like Halloween and Christmas and Easter. And you can get really cheap candy. You can do those like,
hey, Sharon,
where you get candy bar you're eating. Yep.
I used to do a project with like summer camp age kids, like 6 to 9 year olds.
Yeah.
I would buy chocolate and melt it, and then I would buy just all kinds of different things like nuts and toffee and different kinds of cereals and all kinds of stuff. And the project was to create a candy bar that had never been created before, and by mixing whatever they wanted together. But then they also had to package and name their candy bar.
I love it.
It was so cool. And I'm telling you, some of the things they came up with were pretty tasty.
I bet. It's kind of like a twist on Iron Chef. I love it. That's a really good idea.
It was fun.
So Sasha is reminding us that this month on the 21st, it's International Games Day. I totally forgot about that. So International Games Day is really, really fun. If you sign up online, you can get a bunch of free games. I will try to remember. I'm writing this down. I will send you the link to that. International Games Day is really fun. And you can get the whole family involved in that. And, oh, right, 90% off holidays, buy them for the next year. Absolutely. If you have a little bit of storage in your library or at home or in your car, you can go and get really good deals like this time of year off your Halloween stuff, and then right around New Year's for Christmas, you can get all kinds of stuff. So really think outside the box, and I want to show you before I forget. I created a Pinterest page. It's been on the website, but I wanted to point it out for you. There is a Pinterest page here for program ideas, and I will send you the link, but it's also linked on the website. There's tons and tons of program ideas. These are just things that I came across that I thought were really cool. Like this one right here looks messy and fabulous. It's Pudding Pictionary, where instead of drawing with a marker, you draw with your finger in a pile of pudding. Chat and chew. So like I like this idea because it's not fancy. There's not really any point to the program. It's just socialization. And that's one of the things that I think we struggle with is, does there have to be a point to it? Can it just be hanging out? And I say yes. It can be hard to convince adults that that's important. And so sometimes you have to spin it a different way, especially if you're advertising to the chauffeurs or to the teachers. But the kids love it. Just come and play. There's some really good ideas here. Some of them involve displays. Some of them are craft projects. I love this. Toilet paper tube, make it into a mask. Bow and arrow made of Q-tips, stress balls. And look at this. You can decorate your fan. And some of these projects are inspired by little kid projects, and some are just teen stuff. Like this one right here is a new thing that's been happening with these little ball chains and string, and you can make these cool bracelets. Macrame, all kinds of stuff. So take a look at this. You can do all kinds of stuff. Ooh, somebody has to do this. You put shower caps on the kids and you like slather them with shaving cream, and then you have a contest to see how many Cheetos you can catch with your head. I think that would, maybe I'll make you guys do that for the summer reading workshop. I think that would be fun. All right, let me catch up on the comments. Yes, anything that gets them off their phones is fun. Make and decorate tin foil figures. Absolutely. Playing with those things is really fun. You never know what they're going to make, and they'll always make something fun. Playing with your food is really kind of a perennial favorite. You can make all kinds of goofy stuff. This is really fun. You can guess the candy bar. Be careful with the nut allergies, definitely, but by the time they're this age, they should know what they're allergic to. This is really fun if you have an oven in the library, which some of you do, some of you don't. You can press like bugs into the cookies and make fossil cookies. Crayon art, if you've been to my office, you know that I have one of these in my office, which is freaking awesome. There's candy sushi right here. All kinds of stuff you can do. So these are some ideas to get you started. Feel free to make your own Pinterest pages and get inspired. So we only have a couple more minutes, so let's talk a little bit about this week's assignment. Oh yeah, tattoo sleeves, they're on there. Tattoo sleeves are awesome, and you can get cheap pantyhose. Actually, there were a couple of games that you can use with pantyhose, which I thought was really hilarious, because I doubt any of us wears pantyhose, so why else would we buy them, right, except to make fun things for the kids. All right, so what you are going to do this week is you're going to draft a program plan. You're going to include the day, the time, space, age restrictions, your budget, and your marketing plans. I know it sounds huge, but really it's just going to be a couple paragraphs. But I really want you to think about, is this going to be a regular program? Is this a one-off program? How are you going to pitch it to the kids? How are you going to pitch it to their rides? How are you going to convince the people with the checkbooks that this is worthwhile? So whether it's your director, your trustees, the community, sometimes the community gets a little involved and they want to know, like, why are you doing this? Why are you spending your money this way? Why are you spending your time this way? So make sure to really think about, what is it going to do for these kids? And one really easy way to justify teen programs is, wouldn't you rather them be in the library than out on the street making trouble? So feel free to use it. Be specific with your marketing plan. Are you going to use social media? Are you going to use the old-fashioned flyers? Who are you going to call? What are you going to do? And then come up with ideas and think about, what are you going to do next? What are you going to learn from this? What if it fails? What are you going to try after that? And if you would like some extra credit, you can create a flyer or a poster for your program and email it to me or submit it on Canvas, and I will give you an extra point. So other than that, I want to make sure that that you really think about all these aspects of programming, because you want to get the kids in the door, and then you want to have fun with them. All right, so I'm going to stop the recording right now, and then